It is time for another special edition of Litter Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey, and in studio with us today we have Lieutenant Aaron Morgan. He is the commander of the Chillicothe Post, the Ohio State Highway Patrol. He's also a Chillicothe kid. Good to have you here today. Our program is brought to you this morning by McDonald's of Chillicothe, Circleville, Waverly, and Greenfield. And we'll hear from the lieutenant in just a moment, but first, this from McDonald's.
I was looking for a first job. I had been babysitting and decided it was something for a little more permanent. It pays very well. It's convenient. You can make your own schedule with the flexibility. That's something that I like. The people that I work with are great. I wouldn't ask for a better crew or management team to work for.
And a quick reminder for you, breakfast with the Easter Bunny and the Grimace this Saturday at the Western Avenue McDonald's here in Chillicothe. That'll be from 9 until 11 a.m. Lieutenant Morgan with us.
Good morning.
Seems like yesterday you were in high school.
I wish it was yesterday. Gosh. To go back to those days would be great, wouldn't it?
Yes. We would be much younger. I'd have more hair. And what we do have wouldn't be gray.
That's right.
So, but you grew up around here, and what's it like to come back home and help police this area?
You know, I get goosebumps when you say that. I think I knew at 12 years old that I wanted to be an Ohio State trooper.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to go join the Navy. So in 97, shortly after I graduated, I did join the Navy. Spent 7 years in, met my best friend and my wife, and then came back in 2005 and I joined the Highway Patrol. So when I talk to these kids about setting goals and doing things that you want to do, you write those things down and you start checking off the boxes. You come back home and you get to help the people that raised you,
Yeah.
It's neat to be back. It's really great to be back.
Yeah, and you've been visiting schools, and you've got some today that you're going to be visiting too. It's important to connect with these kids. I know we've seen this with some of the guys who are on the force that are from Huntington. They get to go back to Huntington and talk to their kids.
It is really neat, and I was fortunate enough to coach here in town. As a wrestling coach for several years for youth wrestling. So seeing some of those young girls and boys that I got to coach are now going to be driving now. So getting into these schools and they can put a name to a face and a uniform, and what I'm saying, I hope it kind of sinks in with them. My daughter's still a junior, so all the girls, she's playing softball, so getting to be with those girls and come in and talk to some of those kids in high school, it's really rewarding. And I think maybe seeing me out of uniform, and then when I talk to them in uniform, maybe it kind of sinks in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because you become a real person. Mm-hmm. You're not the badge.
Right. Yeah, it's just not the car and the hat anymore. It's Aaron.
Right.
So I think it helps. I know it helps a lot.
Yeah. When we are coming up on May, of course, May we start the 100 deadliest days on the roadways. We hate to hear those, but that's what it is.
It's a fact. So between Memorial Day and Labor Day, the kids are out of school. Mom and dad want to get on vacation, get out of town. And then your bonfires and cookouts, the things that we do in the summer and enjoy, there are a lot of bad choices that are made during those times. Yeah. I could go through countless stories of working around here on holiday weekends where, we were just trying to slow people down and then we had to go to a really bad crash. Memorial Day is when it starts. Mm-hmm. And, with the construction here on 23, that's going to last a year. So Ross County is going to be a different place for a couple of years with the construction, and then you bring in the holidays that are starting here at the end of next month. We're really going to have to pay attention to what we're doing behind the wheel.
Yeah, already this week we've had the orange barrels set up for a few weeks now, but now a different pattern of driving around the business loop and everything, so we've got to get used to that.
Different stages, ODOT and the construction folks, they post the speed limit signs, they're digital and they're flashing, and people still just don't see them. I just wish people would just pay a little more attention, slow down to 50, especially on 23. That's such a dangerous area.
I think they see them. It's that they ignore them.
Oh, that's
I think that's the problem there. And as a trooper, of course, you were a trooper for a number of years before getting the desk job, so to speak. But you've already got one thing on your mind, and that is addressing the individual that you've pulled over. Now you have to worry about not only that, but what's happening behind you, people that don't pull over or slow down.
So that's a move over, slow down law. It's nationwide. I actually saw a video this morning where 2 Florida state troopers avoided getting struck by an SUV that was coming through, and the SUV hit both of their patrol cars. So the idea, the law is when you see flashing lights, whether it's a disabled vehicle, a tow truck, an ODOT driver, not just troopers or police officers or the sheriff deputies, anybody on the side of the road flashing lights, slow down. Move over, change lanes if you can, but if you can't change lanes because it's not safe, slow down. Drop your speed 10, 15 miles an hour, and then once you get past them, you can get back up to speed and everybody will move on.
Yeah. Seems simple enough, doesn't it?
It's easy to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you're watching down the road and paying attention to what's going on far out ahead of you, it should be an easy task.
Yeah, yeah. Graduations are just around the corner. We've already got proms underway. You're distracted by all the wonderful things. You've got a young lady with you in the car. She's dressed all nice. You're wearing a tux that you're probably uncomfortable driving in. Right. So there's a lot of things that young kids need to remember too when they get behind the wheel.
Right. The kids shouldn't be on their phone at all. Youth driving from 24 to 16 is one of the, right now it's really spiking. But just being on your phone is not the only distraction. There's so many distractions within your vehicle. The radio, your dog barking in the back seat. If you're thinking about something else, if you just argued with that young lady before the dance, and you're thinking about the argument, you're not thinking about driving.
Yeah.
These are the things it's not just a phone that's distracting you from driving. There are many, many distractions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this morning, a young lady drove past me, and I don't know if she's Facebook, I don't know what she was doing, but she's scrolling through her phone. So I stopped the young lady this morning that was distracted driving.
Yeah, I can't tell you
primary violation now.
How many times sitting here at our parking lot waiting for traffic to pass on Eastern Avenue and seeing people driving by looking down at their phone.
Yeah, so it is a primary violation now. If we see you with your phone in your hand, it's a violation. We can stop you for that. The only way you can be on your phone, you get one touch, you can turn it on and turn it off, and it has to be up to your ear.
Yeah.
You can use Bluetooth and all that, but speakerphone, anything in your hand that's not up to your ear, that's a distracted driving violation.
Right. So keep that in mind, folks. We don't want you to get into trouble, but more importantly, we don't want you to hurt someone or hurt yourself as well. With coming up here soon in May, we'll have the tour of the Scioto River Valley again. You've ridden bicycles, you know what we're talking about, and we have to share the road not only with the bicyclists but also the motorcyclists as well.
You see all the yellow stickers and signs where it says "Watch out for a motorcycle." That's really important. It's going to be warm. It's getting warm now. The motorcyclists are going to be out. Take that extra look when you're coming out of an intersection, just to make sure you didn't miss that motorcycle that was maybe in your blind spot for a second, so you're not pulling out in front of them. We just celebrated the Buck 50 here in town. That was a huge event. Runners everywhere. That was another time that kind of gets you thinking about motorcycles coming out. There are going to be other people other than just other cars or semis out on the road. Taking that extra look is going to pay dividends.
Yeah, there's 150 miles in the course, and most of that is on the roadways. And I fear each year that there's going to be some type of accident. Fortunately, the only thing this year was the van fire. But outside of that, you as a runner have participated in the Buck 50. Are people pretty respectful on the roadways?
Oh, yes. They do such a good job at marking that.
Yeah.
And I think they do a really good job of marking the TOSRV, I don't know how TOSRV is, but I think they do a good job of marking that, and everybody wearing their reflective vests, and the bicyclists and the runners are probably a lot more cognizant of the people that are driving. But knock on wood, we didn't have any close calls for the Buck 50, and the tour has been successful for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah. 9 years now.
Is it?
Yeah.
It seems longer than that, doesn't it?
And we even have in our area Mennonite or Amish folks, and that means a horse and buggy out on the roadway.
They're lit up in the evenings. If you see one at night, which you don't see them out at night very often, but they have flashing lights, reflective lights, and flashing lights, and they have their slow moving vehicle sign. A sign out, and those guys are pretty much helpless. They're trying to live, and if you just slow down and get around them, it's just going to make everybody a lot safer.
We've got an Amish farm that moved in probably it's been maybe 3 years ago down by where I live in Pike County, and I was on my way to Chillicothe, and he was with his horse and buggy. So that was my first sighting, and then afterwards I had a ball game broadcast over in Athens, and as I went out 32, I saw 3 other horse and it was a banner day for the horse and buggies.
Being in Jackson, I was fortunate enough that we had a larger Amish community, and we got to help those guys out with weddings or things like that to get across 32. It was really neat. And they're so thankful that we're out there to help them. Yeah. I worked with Sheriff Ted Frazier. We were able to help that community. It was really neat. It was really good, rewarding.
I never thought about a horse and buggy drawn. Did they have cans behind them and everything? just married.
That would be really funny. But no, I didn't get to see that.
Did not get to see that. We're talking this morning with Aaron Morgan. He's the lieutenant and the post commander for the Chillicothe Post of the State Highway Patrol. As we try and talk safety for kids, you've got all kinds of statistics as far as wearing your seatbelt, staying off the distracted things that are there. Even if you have donuts or whatever, he brought me a box of donuts this morning, or actually brought it for Aaron Glandon. But as we look at that, there's so many things that can be a distraction for us.
And being in the school, we've teamed with the Ross County Health District this year to get into the schools to talk about safe driving habits and anti-vaping, the initiative there. I've been to Huntington already. We've been to Zane Trace, Paint Valleys today. So many things that we could talk to these kids about doing the right thing behind the wheel, because it's not only, I remind them that driving is a privilege, it's not a right. And I remind them that, whether they get a ticket or not, all these things go away, right? The one thing that doesn't go away is fatally injuring somebody. Right. The largest consequence. That's something that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. So making the right decision as soon as you get behind the wheel is something that won't follow you forever. Doing the right thing is hard to do sometimes. And if we're getting in the schools and talking to these young folks about doing the right thing all the time, it's something that, when they become our age, in a long time, right, they'll be able to be, a successful part of the community. One
of the most vivid messages is during mock crashes, and I know I've participated in them. I'm sure you have as well. When these kids and they realize they're actors, but when they see all the first responders and the progression of a night of an accident, it sends quite the message, doesn't it?
I remember it when I was in school. I remember seeing it. And we're starting that this week. And the message, that you try to put out is, it doesn't just affect you or your driving record or anything like that. It affects the first responders. It affects the neighbors that see the crash, all the aftermath of that, the families that have to deal with this afterwards. That's kind of the message that we've tried to put out here in Ross County is it's not just the crash or the insurance rates that go up, it's the mental and the anguish that happens afterwards. Yeah. If you make the right decision up front, you'll never have to experience those type of things.
Yeah. I recall one of the tennis players for Chillicothe. She was the person who caused the accident in this mock crash, and she was sitting in the back of the cruiser, and her mother was there talking to her through the window. And now this was not part of the act. This was the moment, and she was sitting there grieving over what was an act, but still in the same respect, she was sensing the reality of it all. Both she and her mom was incredible.
Oh, yeah. The emotion with these things. And I think that's what we talked about earlier is seeing me outside of uniform, and knowing that we're real people and we're just guys and girls that are trying to live and do our jobs right. It's just in a different set of clothing when we're on our shift, and we're still people, and we still have to deal with those things afterwards. So the emotions of it plays a really big part.
Right. We want to talk recruitment because you have positions available. There are people who retire, and you need to keep bringing that fresh blood into the force.
Yes. So. And it's not just state troopers. We need electronic technicians, guys that fix our computers or take care of our radios, dispatchers. That we need help across the board, statewide. So the one thing for troopers that we've been successful over the past several years through our academy and just through the division, is there's a 50-mile radius. We're allowed to drive our patrol cars 50 miles from the post to your house. So when people come into the academy, it used to be, my first duty station was in Findlay. You can't get there from here. That's a far ways away. But I was fortunate enough to get back pretty quick. But that 50-mile air radius for a trooper to stay close to home after they get with the academy, that's a pretty big deal. And I hope people are getting the word. that, you're not going to be in Findlay when you graduate the academy.
Right.
You're going to be close to home. Now, you may not work in Ross County. If you live in Ross County, you may work in Wilmington or Jackson, but it's 50 miles from your home to where you'll be able to drive back and forth every day.
Yeah.
The dispatchers, those are the, this week is telecommunications week. So we've honored the dispatchers. Those are the unsung heroes. Nobody sees them. They just hear the comm voice on the radio, and we hear the comm voice, or they hear the comm voice on the phone. We hear the comm voice on the radio. Those guys are really the heroes. Those guys work really hard to make sure we're safe. They know the sounds of our voices if there's something bad going on. They calm people down that are in probably part of the worst days of their lives if they're in a crash. Dispatchers is a great job. It's a great career within the Highway Patrol. I have very, very many friends that have been dispatchers for a long time, and we can go do anything together. It's a really good job. We have aviation, we have pilots, we have dog handlers. We do so many things in the Highway Patrol. So there are very, very many opportunities. And if you just go to the Ohio State Highway Patrol website, it's right there in front. You can apply right there on the front of the website, and it'll tell you, what you need to be ready for, things you need to do to get prepared for the academy, and then the medical clearance and the backgrounds and all that. All that's right there on the front page of the Highway Patrol's website for you.
After high school, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was a state patrolman at the Buckeye Boys State, and so I thought maybe I'll look at the patrol. And so I went up and took the tests, and there was about 150 to 200 of us in the room at the academy taking the test. They kept 5 people.
Oh yeah.
So you talk about the best of the best.
Yes, it was very, very competitive. It took me almost 2 years, and I just kept plugging along. And it's a lot different now. The process is a lot more streamlined now. It seems like everything's digital.
You mean I could get in now?
There's an age limit. I'm over the age limit too. But that's up to 40 now.
Is that right? Okay.
So.
And that really helps with guys who maybe put 16, 17 years in the military.
Right. So,
still an opportunity to come in.
You get in at 18 and come out of the military at 38, you still have the opportunity, you do your 20 years, get your retirement, you can still come in and be a state trooper.
Yeah, get a second career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pension.
We like that. We certainly do. You've got a note here of ride along.
Yes. So any young man or woman that's interested in being a state trooper or anything within the Highway Patrol, come out to the post. Come to your local post. Come talk to the post commander or one of the sergeants that's working. We'll sit down and talk to you. This is something that's new over the last year and a half, offering a ride along to see what troopers do on a daily basis. I think we'd be surprised the number of tickets we don't write in a day. We're making contacts with people. That doesn't mean everybody's getting a citation. We make contact with stranded pedestrians or something like that. We're helping people a lot more, I think, than we're writing citations or changing behaviors behind the wheel. And when somebody comes out and sees what we actually do in an 8-hour shift, their eyes would be open pretty wide, because we're not just out there, with our laser just writing speeding tickets all day long. It's different. We're still promoting traffic safety. I'm not saying we're not doing that, but that's just not what we do for 8 straight hours.
Not exactly Smokey and the Bandit, is it?
No, it's not. It's a lot different than what it was, 15 years ago when I started. The speeds are way different, the violations are different, everything's changed, and if somebody wants to come do a ride along, I'll sit down with you for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll talk about why you want to do what we're doing. I'll set down the expectations for joining the academy and kind of see where you're at physically and mentally if it's going to be for you. It's pretty neat, and it's really rewarding for an old guy like me who can watch it from beginning to the end. We just had a young man, I say kid, but a young man who was a kid that wrestled for me. He was probably 12 years old. He's in the academy right now.
Oh,
so
great.
Seeing that young man from start to, I'm going to see him in uniform here in a few weeks. That's really rewarding for some of us old guys to see it to come to fruition. It's pretty neat.
How long is the training?
So it's 6 months, basically. It's 6
Okay.
months. In the fall or in the summer for the state fair, it might be a little longer because the academy kind of shuts down and we manage patrol the state fair as state troopers. So those cadets might have a couple or a week or 2 extra. But basically, it's a 6-month academy. You live there Monday through Friday. And I always talk about the food. I was in the Navy, so I could eat anything. I love the food there. Monday through Friday, you're getting paid to be there. A 40-hour work week. You probably work a little out more than 40 hours, but it's worth it. All the sacrifices and all the camaraderie you build within that academy class, it happens between Monday through Friday. It's really, really, you're gonna be tested. We're gonna make you'll be ready to be a state trooper when you come out. We'll just teach you how to do it our way when you come to the post.
Right.
It's some of the best training in the country at the State Patrol Academy.
Yeah, and when you go to the state fair in late July, the men and women that are cadets, you're wearing are still the light blue
Still
uniform?
the light blue with the, it's almost like an old bus driver's cap on.
Yeah.
Still have that, it's very traditional. We've had that for as long as I can remember. I forget what we call them now that we're talking about it. But yeah, they're the light blue, dark blue pants, and the bus driver cap.
Okay.
And they're scared to death.
Yeah.
And a nervous wreck. But that's part of the deal. That's part of the design.
Because you're starting to learn to work with the public when you go to the state fair.
Yes. We want these young men and women to start talking to people differently than what they would be, in normal interactions.
Right.
So, yeah, they're a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Afraid to get in trouble, get yelled at. We wouldn't yell at them at the state fair, but they're just nervous about doing the right thing.
Sure. And they're directing traffic for the first time and that kind of thing.
Yeah, getting yelled at for the first time.
Exactly. Anything that we have missed that you wanted to share?
No, these are some of the standards. I printed those out. OVI, we kind of talked about it a little bit. We touched on it. People are still getting behind the wheel driving impaired. With the new marijuana laws, with marijuana being legal, it's basically a beer. So the way to think about it when driving, and this is just specifically with driving, you can't drive impaired by alcohol, you can't drive impaired by marijuana. You can't drink a beer in your car, you can't smoke marijuana in the car. That's the most basic way to be able to explain it, is you can't be impaired by anything when you're driving, whether it be marijuana, alcohol, anything illegal. And our numbers are consistent. We're still arresting and saving lives by arresting impaired drivers.
Yeah. And that's something to keep in mind. If you are one of those users, don't abuse it.
Right. So right now we're testing. It's called a wet lab, where we can test what's on your tongue to see what somebody's ingested right before they were driving. And it's called a green lab. I said wet lab. It's a green lab, so we'll be able to get a test pretty much on the side of the road.
Wow.
With what you've ingested.
And I guess the circumstances by legalization of a lot of this creates the ability for you to be able to do this faster and on site.
Yes, because some of that stuff dissipates really fast that people are deciding to take before they get behind the wheel. So it helps us do our job, helps us save lives. And in prosecution with somebody that's hurt another person, that's big for us.
Yeah, and if you're one of those that smokes, you may not notice it, but it's on your clothes, and it's very noticeable. I remember a bus driver friend of ours, Norma Gokenauer, told me I could always tell what kids had for breakfast because she could smell like bacon and everything on their clothes when they walk in.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So one highlight here in Ross County. This was the end of. I got here in November. This is a great story if we have time.
Sure.
So we have we have dog handlers, and we have guys that just search the criminal element. They don't handle crashes. They're not assigned to a post, but they help us. They help the post units out. So one of the local businesses had a vehicle stolen. So we had a picture. Yeah. And then the DRC had a trailer stolen. So we knew what we were looking for. So these troopers went out in the rural communities like Vinton County, Londonderry area, out on the outskirts, and a picture, like a half a picture of the truck that was stolen. We found it. He found it. They found it. So found that. Then they found DRC's trailer, and this case just exploded to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of stolen equipment. Stolen guns, stolen weapons. All this happened on Christmas Eve, basically, is when it started. So by New Year's Eve, I was in Illinois. By New Year's Eve, they had all this equipment recovered, working with the Sheriff's Department here in Ross County with Detective Pierce, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, all these agencies working together to recover so much stolen property from just a couple of the 1% of the community that does that stuff. And it was all these guys working together to make that happen. They recently got an award of excellence. All those troopers and Lieutenant Dana Hutton, they all got a pretty prestigious award for all the work they did and the collaboration they did to make these victims whole again. It's a really neat story. It's the stuff that probably won't hit the news. You won't hear about it. You'll hear about it in the community because they said, hey, they got my dump. One of them was a dump truck that was stolen from the side of the road. That guy thought he would never get his dump truck back. But these guys work really, really hard behind the scenes. You know, they're just working their butts off, doing the stuff that, you know, that we should be doing, making people whole, helping the community get their stuff back. You know, it was pretty neat. It was really, really neat. A really, really neat story. It's a lot longer than that, but I kind of shortened it up for you.
I know networking is key in business and everything else. It has to be the same. And I was at a work exercise one time for the circumstance was a train had derailed, and so all the emergency personnel were in one room, and we determined who was going to handle what. And it was so great to see the sheriff's department working together with the state patrol and all those involved. For many years, I think a lot of people thought they didn't get along, but that's changed.
Oh, it's so different. And I talk about, you know, being from here, knowing so many people in the community, I could go down to the sheriff's department right now and sit down and talk to the sheriff, anybody down there. I mean, the friendships that we all have, especially in this community, and we had it in Jackson, all over the state of Ohio. The friendships, the relationships, and the collaboration that we have is something that, you know, again, you won't be able to see that anywhere other than just knowing that we are helping each other out. We're talking to each other. You know, they're calling each other in the middle of the night saying, hey, I got this bad guy coming back. Let's look for him. It's really, really neat. It's really, really fun to see. And it's just nice to be friends with, you know, people that you wouldn't normally be friends with. You know, 15, 20 years ago, like you say, that didn't happen. And so and they're going to laugh when they watch this, but, you know, some of these guys watched me grow up. That are still working. But,
well, I think George was sheriff when you were still in high school.
No, maybe not. It was close. But yeah, that relationship is phenomenal. You know, George and I are together a couple times a month doing, you know, breakfast or awards or something. We all get together. It's really, really fun.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got to get out to Paint Valley High School and talk to those kids. We appreciate you coming in and sharing with us today. Welcome back home.
Thank you so much.
I know we talked briefly on the phone back in, I think it was early December, thereabouts, and I said, wait a second, Aaron Morgan? Yep, the Aaron Morgan.
In 2008, we talked about it. One of my first interviews was with you guys in 2008. I was training the guys. Gosh, it's just like yesterday. I can remember probably what we talked about most of it.
He's also pulled me over, by the way. I was on the way back and this is how this played out. I'm going through 772 through Huntington Township, and I'm listening to the Columbus Blue Jackets broadcast. They were on the West Coast. I had just done a Cavalier broadcast. I was on my way home, and this was a tight contest, and I was all enthralled. And this was during wintertime, and you had the cruiser sitting nicely behind a large pile of snow that had been put together by the Huntington Grocery, and I didn't see you, and I forgot that it was 45 miles an hour through there. And your first words were, Mr. Ramey, you coming home from a broadcast? I'm like, yes, I am. So, and I appreciate the warning that you gave me as opposed to a citation. Yet, he only learns in his Scared Straight program, right? Is that what it is? Lieutenant Morgan, thank you again for joining us, and thank you for your service, and thanks also to the dispatchers and all the folks who make the behind the scenes to make things work for us. And thank you for watching this edition of Litter Media Live.